Cold rain slicked the marble steps outside the Whitmore Defense Summit, blurring city lights into trembling reflections. Ethan Cross moved quietly along the building's edge, toolbox in hand, dressed in the neutral colors of someone meant to blend into walls. At 36, he carried himself with the restrained economy of a man trained to notice exits, not applause. Years earlier he had led teams through sand and smoke, but now his world was measured in hourly shifts and overdue notices. Still he showed up. Always. Outside the glass entrance, under a narrow awning, lay Shadow, his aging Belgian Malinois. The dog rested on a folded jacket, dark coat dampened by mist, eyes alert but calm. Shadow was 9, muzzle touched with gray, body lean and disciplined. He had learned long ago how to wait without tension, how to trust silence. Ethan knelt, adjusted the jacket and murmured, "Stay." Shadow obeyed, tail still, gaze steady, guarding nothing but faith. Inside, the summit gleamed with ambition. Polished floors reflected drone prototypes and holographic displays. Investors laughed too loudly. Executives shook hands like deals were already signed. Ethan replaced a faulty panel near the entrance, invisible by design. Then the energy shifted. A ripple of attention moved through the crowd as Victor Hale arrived. The CEO's presence was practiced dominance. Mid-50s, sharp suit, silver hair, smile edged with entitlement. Cameras lifted instinctively. Hale spoke and people leaned closer. His eyes drifted toward the doors, then narrowed. "Why is there a dog outside?" he asked, voice carrying. "This is a security event, not a shelter." Snickers followed. Phones angled toward the glass. Ethan stiffened and turned. Hale stepped under the awning, laughter trailing him like permission. Shadow lifted his head, ears flicking, body still. The CEO gestured with a polished shoe. "Someone forgot to clean up," he said, and before sense could intervene, he brought his foot down against Shadow's ribs. The sound was dull and wrong. Shadow flinched, a soft sound escaping him, more surprise than pain. The crowd froze, half shocked, half thrilled. Ethan closed the distance in long strides, heart controlled, jaw set. He did not shout. He did not run. He placed himself between Shadow and the man, one hand gripping Hale's collar with calm precision, pulling him back a single step. No force beyond intention. Phones hovered, confused. Security moved. Ethan released the collar and knelt beside Shadow, checking his breathing. "It's okay," he whispered. "I've got you." Rain fell harder, washing the steps clean of laughter. The veterinary clinic smelled of antiseptic and warm fur, a quiet refuge tucked between a bakery and a closed bookstore. Dr. Lena Morris examined Shadow with steady hands and softer eyes. "Bruising," she said. No fractures she could feel, but pain lingered beneath the calm. X-rays confirmed it. Shadow would heal with rest and medication. Ethan paid without comment, folding the receipt into his pocket like a promise. By evening, the summit resumed as if nothing had happened. But the building remembered. So did the internet. The next morning, Ethan was called into a windowless office. A human resources manager spoke carefully, hands folded, voice rehearsed. There had been a complaint. A video circulating. The company needed distance. His badge slid across the desk. Effective immediately. Ethan nodded, collected his tools, and left without argument. At home, Shadow slept fitfully on the floor, breathing shallow but steady. Ethan cooked rice and eggs, measured pills, and ignored his phone. Messages piled up. Some accused him of attacking his CEO. Others advised silence. He chose it. Days passed. Money thinned. Ethan sold spare gear, took night shifts wherever he could. In the afternoons, he walked Shadow slowly behind a shuttered grocery store, guiding him through gentle drills. Sit. Wait. Turn. The dog remembered. Muscle and mind aligned despite age and injury. A neighbor watched sometimes, an older woman with a cane who nodded approval without questions. Then the video appeared. Grainy footage from years ago, posted anonymously. Shadow, younger and fierce, navigating rubble with disciplined focus. Ethan's voice guided him, calm and precise. The caption read, "Some dogs are trained to wait." Comments followed. Veterans recognized techniques. First responders asked questions. Someone mentioned a training program quietly discontinued years earlier. Another noted similarities to a product Hale's company had recently launched. Victor Hale watched the clip late at night, jaw tightening. Files were pulled. Names surfaced. Ethan Cross. Former Navy SEAL. K-9 instructor. Lead designer of a rescue methodology repackaged without credit. Hale's confidence faltered. He sent an intermediary with an offer. A quiet settlement. Enough money to erase worry. Ethan listened in a neutral hotel room, shadow at his feet. He slid the folder back unopened. "You stepped on the wrong thing," he said evenly. "And you don't get to buy that away." The intermediary left, unsettled. More footage surfaced. Not dramatic. Just consistent. The truth assembled itself patiently, like a map drawn by many hands. Requests for documentation escalated. Independent reviewers asked for demonstrations. Ethan agreed. Not to prove anything but because the work deserved accuracy. On a gray morning, he and Shadow arrived at a municipal training ground. Observers gathered, quiet and serious. There were no banners, no applause. Only wind, equipment, and time. The demonstration began without ceremony. Dr. Margaret Ellis led the review, clipboard in hand, eyes sharp with experience. She explained the parameters and nodded to Ethan. He spoke briefly, outlining the course and its purpose. "We prioritize certainty over speed," he said. "The dog works until the answer is clear." Shadow moved when signaled, body low, nose tracing invisible paths through debris. He paused when scent thinned, circled back, confirmed, then advanced. Sensors recorded data, but the observers already saw the difference. Discipline. Balance. Trust. They ran the course 3 times, altering variables. When? Noise. False cues. Shadow adapted without confusion. At the end he sat and waited, eyes locked on Ethan. Only then did he signal. A restrained bark, precise and calm. The team exhaled. Data comparisons followed. Patterns aligned almost perfectly with Hale's proprietary system. The origin was undeniable. Emails surfaced. Timelines matched. The board convened. Hale's statements arrived clipped and defensive. They did not land. Ethan learned of the fallout through small signs. A clerk waved him through with a nod. The neighbor brought bread and squeezed his arm. Headlines avoided drama, reporting facts instead. Investigations opened. Leadership stepped aside. Programs were suspended pending review. No one asked Ethan for quotes. He preferred it that way. Weeks later, Ethan unlocked the door to a modest building on the city's edge, once a repair shop, now something quieter. A handwritten sign read "Second Watch." Inside, concrete floors bore honest wear. Coffee cooled on a folding table. Shadow lay near the light, healed and steady. People arrived without fanfare. A retired firefighter with a nervous shepherd mix. A former paramedic whose hands shook at sirens. Ethan paired them gently, adjusting exercises to meet fear without force. Shadow moved among them, modeling patience earned through time. Dr. Morris visited with supplies and an apple pie. She checked Shadow's posture and smiled. "Both of you are doing well," she said. Ethan accepted the words without ceremony. Months passed. Grants arrived slowly. Donations came with notes written carefully. The center grew not loudly but correctly. Years later, Ethan and Shadow walked through a park at dusk. Children played nearby. Leaves whispered overhead. A man feeding birds looked up. Victor Hale, older now, edges softened by consequence. He approached, hand extended uncertainly. Shadow paused, glanced at Ethan. A subtle nod. Shadow accepted the touch, then returned to Ethan's side. No words passed. None were needed. They walked on, the exchange complete. That evening, Ethan closed the center late, turning off lights one by one. Shadow rested his head against Ethan's knee. Ethan smiled, unburdened. Some victories did not require noise. They required a place to land and the discipline to keep it safe. The story did not end with applause or punishment carved in stone. It settled into routine, the truest measure of change. Each morning, Ethan arrived early, keys warm in his hand, Shadow at heel. The center filled slowly with people carrying quiet weight. Some had lost partners. Others had lost purpose. Ethan met them where they stood. He taught patience before commands, listening before movement. Shadow demonstrated what steadiness looked like when it was chosen daily. Local responders trained alongside civilians. Methods spread carefully, credited properly. No branding, no spectacle. Just work. City officials visited once, left impressed but subdued. Offers came with conditions. Ethan declined those that bent the mission. He accepted help that arrived clean. The ledger balanced over time. Not easily. Honestly. Shadow aged gracefully. His muzzle silvered further. His pace slowed, but his presence deepened. He greeted newcomers with a calm thump of his tail, anchoring anxious hands. Children learned to read his cues. Adults learned to breathe again. Ethan watched, knowing the work had outgrown him and feeling peace in that. On an autumn afternoon, Ethan addressed a small group gathered at the center. He spoke of restraint not as weakness but as discipline refined by care. He spoke of choosing protection over pride. He did not mention the summit. He did not mention the shoe. He spoke of waiting and how waiting done right could change outcomes. The room listened. That night, Ethan walked Shadow home under a sky clearing after rain. Streetlights reflected softly on wet pavement. The city felt gentler not because it had changed, but because something within it had been named. At home, Ethan prepared food, measured medicine, and sat on the floor beside Shadow. He rested his forehead briefly against the dog's. "Good work," he said, the words carrying years. Outside, traffic hummed. Inside, quiet held. The choice made on wet marble steps had rippled outward, not with fury but with patience. An arrogant act had met disciplined restraint. Truth had arrived without shouting. A dog had been protected. A man had remained himself. And in the spaces where cruelty once performed, something steadier now stood watch, waiting, ready and kind.